Yeah, we're gonna have to find out. I'm looking forward to you proving me wrong on this one. Let's see what he can do. But for now, the bottom right in the blue, he's playing for Navi. It's Spirit.
And his opponent in the top left, as the red Protoss player, we have herO. Not surprising to see him be a Protoss that goes for the fastest probe scout against Terran that he can, whether it's going to be just for that harass or if he has any other further plans. This is just the kind of thing that he does. herO is not a player that really passes up on the opportunity to take some sort of advantage in trying to harass or be annoying for the opponent. And in TVP, it's one of those things that's weirdly shifted a little bit. It's a bit harder to do some of that probe harass. So you see it sometimes come a little bit faster, but obviously they had the patch where the worker attack range got doubled. Feels insignificant in a lot of ways, but particularly for this, as a Terran, I must admit, it makes it a lot less stressful. So herO going and doing that is quite normal. But what I do find interesting here is Spirit. We saw this earlier today, didn't we, Bayo? With this the engineering bay block out of him after the double. Well, he went double gas opening in that earlier game when he did it. So no fast wall off this time, but still the fast block. And you're gonna test herO? You're just gonna be like, yeah, herO, do something crazy, do a one base against me. He's like, yeah, he's kind of puffing his chest out a little.
Yeah, I think that was Clem that did that against Stats. I don't think we saw.
Yeah, they're blending together. They're blending together now. We've seen a little bit of it though. It's nice.
Okay, so this is interesting, by the way. As we talk about what's happening, there are a couple ways you can approach getting eBay blocked. You can pull probes and a zealot and kind of knock it down. You can opt to take another base. You can take your normal third. You can do what herO's doing right now, which is taking your third base very far forward. And I say this is interesting because, Nate, this is the most exposed, against like a Hellion run by or something. This is insanely exposed. When we saw the Cyclone change in the last minute, where Cyclones were just uber buff for a couple months, you would see Clem and other European Terrans going for this exact thing because you would kind of force an expand here, and then Cyclones run across the map and you take the base down and just the game is over, and it's really painful. I don't think we see that as much anymore as the Zealot runs across. herO made it to deal with the eBay block, but because he just got the cancel, it's like, okay, well, let's see if I can get something done here. And there's the follow-up. So step one, okay, you take this here, it's super vulnerable to run bys. How do you buttress that? How do you buffer that in some way? You go Stargate, you get Oracles, you get Phoenix Tide, you get these things that can actually deal with Hellions fairly well before, even without upgrades. And that then would trigger, theoretically, Spirit to go and build a bunch of Cyclones and get all this anti-air and go for this like base and a half push. And I don't know if we're going to see that now again with Cyclones being just a little bit more nerfed, but even still, it is an awkward position for herO to find himself in. And this, well, the Zealot and the Adept, they're not really going to get much of anything. Oh, that bunker finished just in time.
Yeah, not too much happening here. We've seen this opener a couple of times in TVPs today, right? The double Adepts kind of sharking around. We've seen them finish behind that mineral line. I was going to say, there's been a couple of times where that dive was made for the Mule, but he actually goes for the Reaper and kind of misses it. The Reaper does just barely outrange the Adept, so you see a little bit of that dancing happen, and he goes to tuck it back behind the bunker, and it may end up being what allows him to secure the kill on that, as he's going to get just a little bit of the regen. He trades it out, and
oh no, the body block, the Cyclone stuck behind the Marines. Traitor. Oh, it should still die at the end, but lasts that much longer. That being said, though, shout out to the micro of Spirit right there. You know,
a funny little skirmish, yeah.
Like, he got a lot. Those Adepts tried to really toe the edge of things, and part of it is really what, like a skill test for Spirit. It's like, okay, herO, saying, look, Spirit, how good are you playing today? And Spirit, outside of the Cyclone getting a little stuck behind the Marines, he passed that with flying colors, didn't lose a lot of Marines, and now this idea where he's like, okay, well, I'm going to kill off all the anti-air so my Oracle can get damage done. Not quite as powerful. Even still, getting 4 SCVs is going to be pretty nice here for herO on top of everything else. So not a lot of pressure coming out of Spirit just yet. The Oracle gets damage done. Not bad.
No, not bad at all. Again, herO is the guy that when you get into weird games, this is what I was talking about. It's not the kind of thing that phases him a lot. That being said, the 2 Adepts behind the mineral line, like, it's almost criminal that he didn't get the Mule. You know, taking the shot at the Reaper, I don't know if that was a misclick or if it was intentional, but that was probably the biggest clutch up for Spirit, since he already has the 3rd command center and he's going into tanks, which means that there is a world here where he can actually power out enough as these barracks finish up to try and make a move for that third and a nice timing. But I'm still expecting herO to bring some crazy pressure once his blink is done. So at the very least, he can make maybe 2. Actually, did he? Yeah, okay. He finished the first tank, so he can make maybe 2 more if he was to go straight for it. But he is just going to do 1. So it's understandable to some degree because he wants to get more barracks and marauders and all that jazz. And the starport's only just now started. But if there's somebody's blink build to respect, since that oracle might also give high ground vision, something to keep in mind, it's probably herO's though. There's not too many people who have better control than him. I think we expect out of those units.
Yeah, you know, it's funny you talk about that though, because yes, herO's blink absolutely shenanigan. It was only 3 gate, so not 4 gate. There's no robo here, and +1's on the way. So it's like, yes, herO is still probably going to get aggressive with this, with the stalkers. The oracle gives you that high ground vision. You're absolutely correct, but this is pressure. This is, hey, I'm gonna feel you out. Maybe I can get some damage done. Not, I got it. Not necessarily something where Spirit or herO has to end the game. He is adding more gateways, but that's because his third base is done, and he's probing up just a little bit more. So his goal right now is to maybe kill a tank if he does. That's great. And this stasis trap gets all the Marines. That is so. That means the third base has to lift. That means it has to go back home. And I gotta say here, Nate, this tank is dangling. I am so surprised he's not just jumping right on top. Instead, around it. He is playing this so safely. I thought that tank was dead like 5 times over.
Yeah, this is a classic herO play. I mean, he is so surgical with where he chooses to move those units in and out. And now he does go for that tank because he has a couple stalkers on the low ground. But really, the biggest thing was just that without Stim, trying to take that third base on this map, it's just tricky. Yeah, you can put a tank on the high ground in that spot, and then every Protoss player would do what herO just did, or at least that's what you should be trying to do there. It's just so hard to go and engage the stalkers on the low ground without the ramp, without Stim. They have the speed and the range, and then of course you get your Stim, and most Protoss players would lose a stalker or 2 right there before they go back. But herO's like, oh, your Stim's ready? Okay, yeah, I'm out. All good, no problem. Somehow got an adept into the main while that was happening. There are 2 very low health SCVs. Might be able to scoop one up. Not sure it's a big deal either way. Stalkers are continuing to poke at the army while he takes that third. So what do we have? A Protoss now moving up to 4 bases as the Terran takes the third. So he's following that economic balance of how this matchup progresses like beautifully. It's just you love to see everything herO does, because even though his base got blocked super early, he kind of seamlessly gets to where he needs to be. But at the same time, it's kind of almost reminiscent of the Trigger series in that it's a lot of gateway units containing, not a lot of fancy stuff behind it, but he's keeping his opponent in his base a little bit more to the point where he can actually, he can actually make that transition in his tech. Robo Bay is about 70% done.
Yeah, I think it's also important to point out, I mean, you kind of did, where there's room for herO to grow. In that Trigger game, Trigger was not really growing into the mid game, wasn't really developing his tech at the same rate. So, mass gateway can be good, but again, you do need that follow-up, or you need just an insanely bigger army, a much bigger economy that allows you to just kind of flood units over and over again, which herO is gonna try to do right now a little bit. But I mean, Spirit's batting it down for the long haul. The Sim City, the bunkers, the tanks, any attack in here right now is not gonna be a good trade. So herO lets the Zealots go spend their lives, maybe get some damage done, blinks the Stalkers out for the time being. But this is where it gets a little scary as a Protoss player. You've committed so much to this. It's really hard to break the Terran, but you kind of feel like you want to, because late game Terran is tremendously scary. Certainly if you're herO and you don't necessarily want to go, say, 3 Stargate carrier that we see stats in Classic go for, that Twisted Minds Brain Trust. So you're kind of in this situation where you're like, I want to break the Terran. I'm in a good spot. I want to break the Terran. But they are turtled up so hard behind tanks and Sim City and bunkers that it is very easy to throw far too much away into it. And then Spirit's right back in the game. All of a sudden, Spirit runs across the map and you've just dashed yourself against the rocks.
It's the eternal struggle. On one hand, putting the Terran in a position like this is kind of what you want as a Protoss. He doesn't have to deal with drops. He doesn't have to deal with drops. He doesn't have to deal with liberators. There's no mines anywhere. He's got pylons around all the edges, probes around the edges of the map. It would be so difficult for herO to be caught off guard in this situation. Like, that information is so nice to have. But you're right, it's exactly the kind of thing where you also say, oh, I'm up a base or 2, man, maybe I just try and just push right here. Maybe I just push right here, right as I see one of those tanks, and then the tank in the back, you go, oh, well, I just need to get that. And then all of a sudden you realize there is another tank on the high ground. And those stalkers that we talked about, they're very expensive and they're pretty flimsy too. So On the other hand, it's important for herO to exercise that patience. Triple medevac goes in the northeast. Probe sees it. Should anyway. He's in a weird spot of the bush where he doesn't yet, but he will see it. And for herO, it's again, he's going to be already prepared to at least move his units over and answer this.
Yeah, hero's aware of all the drops. There's another single drop on the bottom left side, but he just had a random stalker there that blinked away at it and made something happen. So now herO knows he's actually moving on the main base. Warps a couple stalkers in, but actually the SimCity means he's gonna knock him down really nice. It's like, okay, is this enough stalkers? And it turns out it actually might not be. But even still, he says, this is my opportunity. You've got 40 armies to fly on the other side of the map. I can go and I can do more damage than you're gonna do to me. So he kills the fourth base here. And meanwhile, he can always recall if he has to. Meanwhile, he's bleeding a couple zealots into this. But again, realistically, his economy is so good that even if it's a negative trade, quote unquote, even if he trades a bunch of zealots and doesn't get all the bio, he killed the fourth base of the Terran. So yeah, maybe you would like to trade a little bit more efficiently, but you don't. It's kind of fine. You're okay as long as you can keep Spirit on 3 bases. Here, it doesn't matter what here happens on hero's side of the map for the most part. He's gonna be fine.
Yeah, and it's especially frustrating too. Think about what Spirit's position is trying to take that fourth base. He has so many SCVs on that third that, you know, with an 86 workers, and he's still building them. It's the kind of economy that asks for you to have these bases up. And for herO, he's like double punishing him, because in some situations, the Terran might say, oh, if I'm being contained, I want to just try and max out, maybe pull the boys, do something crazy. Obviously, this isn't one of those games, but it would be doubly worse if he tried to do it with 88 SCVs, because this just means the rest of his army is smaller. He tries to come down on the fourth one more time. There is the spread, the Colossi up top. He has the disruptors in the back and force fields to prevent him from running away. But I was going to say the biggest thing for him here has to be just trying to get these stalkers. If he could kill the command center, that would be huge. Everything else kind of wants to zone for that, but good jump onto one of the Colossi by Spirit there, and manages, at the very least, if you're herO, there's still no fourth base landed for the Terran. He does have enough workers to instantly saturate it when he gets it, but looks like a recall is going to get forced by that drop in the north side. That's 4 Marauders, and if Spirit gets the fourth though for the Terran, then you can breathe a bit of a sigh of relief. But you need the workers there, you need to be mining it, and maybe when the planetary is done, you can start to breathe a little bit. Yeah,
I mean, behind this hero's upgrades are going bonkers. He's got +3 attack, armor just about done, adding in shields, Dark Templar, really rounding out that composition. I am a little surprised, again, to not see him going to that Sky Toss that looks so strong in Group A earlier today, but I think that's a stylistic thing, right? herO just not the type of player that really likes to go for that. He'd much rather sit on microball units, on ground-based stuff, so he tries to move up the ramp once again. Destructive shots are okay, not incredible, but not horrible. And he is taking a little bit of damage from the drop on the north side, but Overcharge says, you're fine. herO not going to take a ton of damage from that one. And behind this, what's he on? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's on 7 bases, Nate. He's on 7 bases to 4.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, you want to prevent this fourth base from landing, but when you're up 3 bases on your opponent, even with that,
it took so long, right? It took so long for him to get the fourth. He's eaten the map. That's the correct move here. He's maxed out. He's got a very powerful army. The Colossus Disruptor is not the main focus. It's still very clear he likes a lot of the gateway units, but even just having those handful of Immortals mixed in there means diving any of those tier 3 units suddenly becomes a lot less enticing of a venture. And Medevac's kind of boosting forward a little bit too, as some of them are running out of energy. So he's just been taking these trades endlessly, and the further away he pushes him towards that natural, he's like, are you really just going to give up this much space? Because that planetary, you know, at some point he is just going to be giving it up. And he comes up, Disruptor Shot's going to try and keep the army away, gets 2 huge volleys onto the bio, so the Colossus is dead. But for Spirit, everything else is, and GG is called. herO taking game number 1. That's, yeah, whew. I like watching herO play, man. I like watching herO play StarCraft. He's got a rhythm and a pacing to his actions that once things begin to happen in the game, they just don't stop. Such an entertaining player to watch.
Hey Nate, did you know that herO is really good at the video game?
I did. I've been posting about, you know, even back, I was, you know, the original CJ Entis herO poster. I love that guy. He's fantastic.
You sure Gemini might not have a heavy beat on that one?
No, he doesn't. I know that for a fact. Love you though, buddy. He likes Liquid herO.
True.
The other guy.
Look, they both have the same name. What's the difference? It's the same person. We're okay.
That's true. It's kind of like how there's that RV company name that has the StarCraft, right? And we drove past one of those the other day. You know, Katie blew her mind. Had no idea. I'm like, as long as they're not in the same industry, you can get away with quite a bit of stuff like that. Fun fact.
Exactly. So, hey, I'm not surprised to see herO doing this well. I did like what we saw Spirit kind of do at the end, where he knew there was a lot of pressure on that planetary, and he had to keep it alive, obviously. And if you lose it, you're kind of dead. But he's like, okay, well, you're attacking on my bottom side. I'm just gonna go and I'm gonna take the low ground base that you took as your natural because I forced it there, but is generally like the 4th or 5th base. So I'm just gonna expand away from the action, and maybe there's a world where I come back. Didn't work out. herO, however, despite the, I mean, herO had crazy vision this game. Despite everything, he didn't know about it. So maybe that's the world. I don't know. But for now, we have to see whether Spirit can play a game that is a little bit less disastrous early, because that was the problem. He wasn't the mid game, it wasn't the late game, and he fell behind. But it was more you take so much damage from the Stalkers and everything else that, and the Oracles and all your weird opening, that you're kind of on the back foot the entire time. And if that's true, then I mean, trying to come back against herO is not, it's not a winning proposition.
Well, in StarCraft, there in any kind of strategy scenario, like there's a reason why you do something, and we could get into this more after we introduce the players. But there, you know, for herO, like he is just not the kind of guy that you're gonna throw off by doing stuff like that. Like if you try to eBay block a guy like herO, you are probably doing more damage to yourself than you are to him. I'm just gonna put it out there. That's just how I feel. He's very comfortable the weirder the game gets.
That he is, but his opponent trying to make him uncomfortable once again, and maybe this time a little bit more successfully. For Na'Vi, it's Spirit.
He faces off against the red Protoss player in the Northwest, leading the series 1-0. He is herO. A legend, absolute legend of Protoss and StarCraft. I think even before he went to military, before his break, whatever his hiatus was, that he was still like the guy that people were like, well, you know, Protoss is struggling, but herO, right? herO, he still just destroys everybody, and herO does this, and herO does that, and it really is just a testament again to the legend that he is, and over the storied many years of tournaments and experience that he is still here as someone that we can watch and bring off these crazy games. Spirit, one of the things I like about him so much is how well he can play those late game macro games against players that are favored against him. Did things work out in game 1? No, but typically, I don't know, typically Spirit is the guy that can kind of, he's not always trying to avoid getting into that situation, even if it's still tough. And I respect that a lot from him as a competitor, you know, like he's pretty much always willing to go toe to toe with anybody in a long game. And I do think that says a lot about his mentality as well.
Yeah, no, that's very true. I mean, for the longest time, Spirit was this guy that's promising, that SaRo's late game practice partner. So you know that he has a lot of experience playing against some of the best players in the world in these late game scenarios and not blinking. And granted, being here in Atlanta or in Dallas here in an offline event, there's a lot more pressure to it than grinding a bunch of games on late game scenarios against SaRo or whoever you're grinding, Showtime maybe, in customs. Again, it's a bit of a different format, but you're right, he is no stranger to that one whatsoever. And in this game, he's doing something a little bit interesting again, right? It's barracks, double gas, although I guess this is actually gas, barracks, gas, but he's putting his command center on the high ground, getting that factory a little bit faster. So maybe win a mine drop, something like that, but something that, again, trying to pull the wool over hero's eyes a little bit more than, hey, this is the Reaper expand. You know what I'm gonna do. You know how this build works.
Yeah, he's taking like a minor away of agency away from him, right? He's just like, just a little bit. I just don't want you to even be able to harass this base. I'm just gonna get up to my Cyclone so that I don't have to worry about anything, and I'll just go fly this over. By the time this base is landing or turning into an orbital, my Cyclone will mess with you. And herO with the pylon block, I love it, because even though the Cyclone can block this, is kind of him like building the command center up in his main was kind of like his way of almost like giving him a little bit of a, you know, a little bit of a gesture, if you will, as he's like, yeah, you're just not going to be able to do that stuff to me this game. And then herO, I mean, what could you possibly interpret this as but him returning the gesture? Goes for the cyber core block just to say, no, you're not going to be able to morph that orbital, or you're going to have to morph it somewhere else. He's like, this is what you get for engineering bay blocking me. Do you have any idea who I am?
Hey, I know you talked about loving herO, and I am also someone who just very much rides that herO bandwagon, but if you didn't love herO before this series,
this is the stuff he does, right?
How can you not love him after seeing this?
He's like, you eBay block me, I cyber block you. That's the way it goes. And again, he's like, oh, is this weird? Doesn't matter. That's where herO thrives. So, and he even had the probe left over to get one last little tase in.
Hey, Nate. So we talked about this, right? How do you feel about disruptor drops? Because herO, I was about to talk about how he's been doing this thing where he goes like 3-gate robo and it's gateway pressure, and behind that he does whatever. But he's adding a robo bay, and there's a slim world where this is a Colossus drop. We haven't seen that in years. Generally at this point, most likely it will be a couple disruptors here. Again, build out fairly quickly. Widowmine drop, tries to show up in the main base. Medevac goes down. Probe should. Oh, they're gonna try to kill it. There's no, absolutely not. This is not legal. Somehow only a single probe goes down, and that
great control.
Yeah.
Great. We've talked. There have been a couple of control mishaps throughout the day, and I try to do, you know, the consideration of assuming there's a lot of travel, there's a lot of adjustments, people playing on new setups. Of course, you're in a new venue. There's so many different variables that change, and again, I just use all of this to hammer home. herO pulls it off. You know, he gets 2 Widow Mines. He's got all of his probes stacked on top of a burrowed mine, and somehow he only lost 1 to that shot. Just, you love to see it. It's good heads up play, and now he's going back on the counter offensive with this stalker drop. And I guess instead of making it a disruptor drop like we were kind of hoping maybe it'd be something kind of crazy, he just says, well, no, now I can just build Colossus way more fast than I would with a more standard build. So I'm happy to take this third later and have all the tech I need to deal with you getting aggressive if you so choose to.
I gotta say, Nate, I got really excited for a second because I saw the Colossus on the production tab. I'm like, Colossus drops. We haven't seen this in years. This is gonna be great. Like, there's a reason we go disruptor drops. It tends to be better and a little cheaper. In fact, I mean, it would a bunch of reasons, but you know, the allure, right, of the Colossus drop. And then he just goes and adds extended thermal lance, which means there's no prism speed, and you're like, Nate, I got really excited for a second, and hero's still doing a great job with the prism and the stalkers and all of that, and getting damage done. But I got really excited for a second, and now I hate herO because he dashed the hopes that I set for him. That is totally unfair.
Oh, he does like his gateway units, but I'll give you that. It wouldn't have surprised me. It wouldn't have surprised me to see it. But he does weird stuff. He does weird stuff like that every now and again. So here's the question: what does he have to deal with Spirit's move out? The Colossus is already kind of out there with the gateway forces. He's not going to let him siege up on him preemptively. Does lift up the sentries there. But this is all about just force the siege. Then he's going to have to unsiege, slowly move up again. These Marines actually try to secure the forward ground without the unsiege at all. So it's awkward, but the Terran is just sieging up empty space, right? Really, the Liberator is probably the more annoying thing that he's dealing with, and soon to be this drop in his main. But he's got the third set up, so let's see how he deals with it. Liberator does get the Stalker in the natural, so he's getting a little bit of work done. He's stressing him out.
One thing I will say is we take a look at our heroes handling the move out, right? So the drops, Liberators causing problems, absolutely. One thing that, and by the way, without Blink here, I mean, life is just, what am I, of course he's got Blink. He's got the Prism. He's just juggling things. He's fine, but he was leading. He was soaking tank shots with Stalkers and Sentries and not the Zealot, which is really the ideal. You soak with mineral units, not gas units. And now we got Spirit here on the siege up into the natural. He's going to try to knock the shield battery down, gets that one done. And this attack is scary. It's 4 tanks. It's some bio. He's gonna have some reinforcements, but hero's just gonna drop right on top of this. Charge is done. It's 3 Colossus here.
Bombs.
Yep.
Just absolutely mops the floor with Spirit's army. The drop does make it into the back of the natural again. He's gotten a couple shots there with the libs. Got a couple of hits with the drop. And if anything is worth calling attention to, since we've talked about the economic situation so much, Spirit's up 60 to 47 workers. So herO, has he survived this? Has he withstood the blows and still built a very powerful army? I would say powerful in the sense that he has the tech, right? 3 Colossus and Immortal, awesome. But there's not a lot of meat, and he doesn't really have the money to leave static defense at home either because of this probe count situation. So while he is going to try and move out and do something, there's not really anything here to actually protect him. Not in the main, not in the natural, not in the third base. He just has battery in the main, I guess, but he's got a lot to deal with, and This pylon maybe trying to be saved is asking for quite a bit.
Well, the other question is, as we take a look at what's happening here, so the third base is probably going to go down. The probes are, I mean, the probes are pulling into this, but you got personal healing. It's not going to work out all that well. Does Spirit have enough at home to deal with this army? Because this is full base trade. He's committing right now, come hell or high water. He's ending this game in the next 45 seconds. And that drop is a problem. It's killing a ton of probes. But because that drop's on the other side, because actually, I think a bunch of Vikings went down. The Stalkers knocked him out. Does Spirit have what it takes to defend this on the other side? And the answer is, actually, it's not base trade at all. Well, I guess, no, the third base did die. herO recalls out of it.
Yeah, he tried to recall. The recall got canceled. It was the third. He was trying to recall to the third base, so that's the tough part too, because now that cooldown goes away for the other Nexus in his bases as well. So it's just an awkward situation now where it's like, oh, I wanted to recall, I'm still not home, and when I do go home, I can't really leave because I still won't be able to recall. So not a great time, but if he's got anything to be happy about, he did dislodge the third. Spirit landed it in his base. He's kind of realized this game is getting weird enough now where he just doesn't want to leave anything out there to get sniped, and I think that makes some sense. But we are heading into some dank territory for this one, my friend.
This is a herO game, though. You talked about the game getting weird and it being absolutely in herO's bailiwick. That's what we're looking at right now. He's killed 24 workers. He's equalized the worker count. He's lost his own base, but his opponent's not mining from the third, so it kind of equalizes. Yeah, mules are a thing, but again, the other way you look at that is you mule the natural long enough, and well, these mineral patches are going to mine out there. Yeah, there we go. Half a mule left on that mineral field. Very little left. So herO, he's got his third base underway. His +1's done. Does not have blink. That's kind of the big thing he's missing here. And the other thing to pay attention to is we take a look at how these players respond to the rough situation that they found themselves in. Spirit's been building Vikings this entire time. No medevacs, but he's going up to, he's at 5 Vikings right now. He's going to go up to 7 or 8, adding in that Ghost Academy. Yeah, it's hard to afford everything on 2 bases, but he's building the tech that allows him to invalidate the big tech lead that herO has. Again, without blink, the Stalkers can't react to these to the Vikings very well. And then if you have like 8 Vikings against a bunch of Colossus, you start to one-tap them down, and that value in herO's army goes away very quickly.
Yeah, so we've got the Ghost Academy finishing up for Spirit. Again, we've kind of talked about how even in these situations, he's a guy that generally doesn't mind playing long games. I think it's kind of nuts that herO has this army waiting below the third base. Like, he just kind of expects with the vision of his observer that he can create a situation where he can get some harass on this base, maybe snipe it when the bio moves out, but there the obs does get killed. And again, it's a kind of a gutsy move. herO's going to send some zealots out towards the front now, and he's bringing the rest of his army back up. I do like to see that. I want to favor Spirit in this situation, but it is because he has a huge army, and I think that head-to-head he has enough potential to be able to win this. But he is tremendously respecting herO, and I think it says a lot that he's just chilling back in his base. He's like, I don't know why, but I just know he's got an army sitting outside somewhere, and it's because, truthfully, he does. So
hero's Kevin McAllister right now, right?
Little, like, yeah, it's
Spirit,
like has he seen it? No, but he's just like oh, it's herO. It's like there's no way I'm just stepping out of my base and he's not gonna have something.
Yeah, no. herO's Kevin McAllister. Like, Spirit wants to go and break into his house and take all of his lunch money, and herO's got he's got a bunch of mannequins dancing in the living room, and he's got booby traps in the attic, and yeah, technically.
Exactly.
Spirit's like a grown adult.
He's ungrounded every electrical socket and unplugged everything. He's like, go for it, bro. Try to turn the lamp on. Like, no, man, I'm not. You break into that house, you see herO, it's herO's place. No, walk away, man. It's just a saw trap waiting to happen.
Yeah, it's just not worth it. You got to find some way to end the game eventually, though, because eventually you give him enough time. herO's got his 4th base just about done. He's sending probes over. He's building up workers once again. He's managed to supply block Spirit off the depot. Give herO enough time, he will come back into this game. He will macro his way back into things. He's got +2. He's adding an armor, disruptors, 2nd robo, 2nd forge now. He's starting to hit a point where, yeah, he took a lot of damage. So did Spirit, but herO took more. But he's building himself back into this game, and this timing that Spirit had where he had this much more powerful army, not really there anymore. And there's the 5th base on the way. So, yeah, all of a sudden, it's not Kevin McAllister's house, Nate. It's Kevin McAllister's entire block. It's like Home Alone 7.
Yeah. You know, it saddens me that my mind didn't. I actually somehow feel like I'm aware that there aren't that many Home Alone movies, but you did remind me there are that many Land Before Time movies, and now you just kind of ruined my day.
Oh,
but at least
sorry.
I still get to cast herO, so I think I'll probably feel better in the next 20 to 30 seconds when we get this fight going. Looks like it's going to be a little bit gnarly. How many disruptors are we at? Is that about 5 with the army right now, and he's got another one about to pop.
So yeah, 7 is the magic number where you just can continuously shoot a Colossus out over and over and over again. But, you know, even still, like 5 is more than enough here to make it hard for Spirit to fight into. And it's one of those things where, like, Spirit has shown that today his micro's looking pretty good. But you make a mistake for 1 second, disruptors go blow up your army, you're really upset about things, that the Colossus is in a way, Stalkers are just trying to kill as many Vikings as possible, disruptors land. And in part because Spirit's looking on this side of the map, he understands that maybe he can go and smash down that base, but immediately, the moment, yeah, okay, no, there's an observer on the north side. herO knows that that's happening, so he gets as good a fight he can get, kills off a couple of Vikings, gets some shots with the disruptors, and then recalls everything back home. Says, you killed my base once, it's not gonna happen again. And actually now I'm gonna go try to find your army, this task force on the right side that I know has no Vikings, that maybe my Colossus can get on top of. And even with EMPs and everything else, these Zealots are chasing things down, and the more this happens, I mean, Vikings are going to start to show up once again. And out, these are unsupported Colossus. This is a great move coming out of Spirit. Stalkers from the bottom side, but the Colossus should eventually go down as the Stalkers, they just can't join. This is a great fight for Spirit.
The angle he gets on the North Army is fantastic. herO landed, it looked like 1 or 2 pretty juicy disruptor shots, but that just the way that he played the terrain, the Vikings over the cliff, there was just nothing there. Absolutely did not want to lose all 3 Colossi. He does have 9 disruptors, so he can lean back towards that gateway heavy force, get the Immortals out, and try to turn those Vikings into dead supply. But does he know about this drop? Okay, big warp it in the main base. He's ready for it. He's smelt it.
Yeah, but it's not a lot of Stalkers, right? So yeah, the Zealots are there, but I mean, getting on around the Simpsons
he's like
a little bit
he'll
rough.
Drop on them, I guess. He's thinking he'll drop on the Stalkers. He's like, I need Zealots here too, in case he just kills me while they're warping in. I don't.
Well, actually, what it is
intense.
herO doesn't have any gas. He couldn't afford a bunch of gas to build a bunch of Stalkers to make that happen. So I think that's probably more of what it is these Vikings. Spirit's very sad right now because he's just found a base of heroes that he probably feels shouldn't exist.
Yeah, well, you see, when you get contained like this and you finally get to step out and you just see all the stuff that they have, and you see that there's no cannons on that bottom 4th. He just has the 1 cannon on the 5th in the corner. He's going to reinforce that a little bit more, but that's because he's on the field now, right? He's like, at this whole point, he hasn't really been that worried since the first 3rd base got taken down, because Spirit just kind of, I don't want to say let up on the gas, because I do think there's a huge risk of overcommitting and overextending, but this is just a huge confidence bet by Spirit on himself, because there was maybe a moment where he could have tried to force it much earlier when he got that, that big decisive win, and kind of was almost, I think when he denied the recall, it felt like that was maybe where the biggest opportunity was going to be after that. But he's just said, I'm fine letting us both max out and just trying to outplay you, which you know, a lot of respect to Spirit for that, but damn, son, you picked a hard battle.
You did. I mean, regardless of who wins this game, what a game to end our day on. This is really turning out. The Spirit again, really nice concave on top of this army. And when you talk about this setup, you talk about herO betting on himself. This composition that herO has made is one that stops trading efficiently right around right now. 3-3 is just about done. You add Ghost in on top of everything. Late game Terran bio is better than late game gateway disruptors, the Colossus. Generally, the Protoss player wants to mine more and make that happen. We can see this happening right now. Unless the disruptors get incredible shots, it's not something where the Protoss player can trade all that cost effectively. Random disruptor on the backside is never going to get a shot off. And well, actually, yeah, that one's not going to get a really great shot off either. And at this point, you pick up your runaway Stalker count it's going to get like 1 medevac. There was nothing inside of it. So Spirit continued to get these incredibly cost-effective trades. But it's funny, as I say that, herO has so much money that even as that trade is cost-effective, the supply is suddenly 30 army supply in herO's favor.
Yeah, and he sees the planetary on the top side, so the disruptors, very good typically. I like the load unload micro to the other side a little bit there. with the PF. But I think probably the weirdest thing during that last fight too is a lot of those disruptors actually got separated from the army. About 3 or 4 of them kind of went on the south side. They went like around the middle, so they weren't with them. He kind of trickled them slowly behind for that flank shot, but things very hectic. Zealot's inside of the main base of Spirit, and he's going all the way deep, saying, bring your army here. I'm going for, go for the Ghost Academy, go for the rest of the upgrades, whatever it is, but don't have your army where I'm gonna go. And now herO comes up on that third base. There's a little bit less here than there used to be, but it's a take what you can get kind of situation when you've got this many bases and he's just throwing stuff at you. You just want to keep that Terran economy down.
That you do. So the third base, granted, you talk about keeping the economy down, not the most impactful. It's only like 5 catches remaining, and they're very, very low. Taking this base down, taking any of the north right side bases, the, what do you want to call it, the 3 o'clock, the 3 o'clock, 2 o'clock bases. That's probably more important, but you're right. Any damage you can get is damage worth doing. So herO just about to max out again, adding in those disruptors at the very end of things. Now, herO does have, there was a time when Spirit had 3-3, herO didn't, but now herO, he's got 3-3, he's got shield as well, and this third base does not stay alive. Meanwhile, a bunch of Zealots getting on top of the planetary as well. Random Immortal means that this planetary is going to go down that much faster, and disruptors on the right side as well. That being said, look at this concave coming out of Spirit. He's going to force a recall, getting as much damage as he can on top of the tech. It's not great for Spirit. He has taken a ton of damage, lost a base, lost 2 bases, damage to the disruptors. But he does bring his army back into parity in some way, shape, or form. It's 3 disruptors, 4 mortals, a colossus, the rest of his gateway units, which Nate, you know as well as I do. In this late game against a bunch of ghosts, a bunch of 3-3 stim bio, the zealot count, it almost doesn't matter in a straight up fight.
No, the best thing to use those for, right? It's what he did, the hit and run, go for the outside exposed planetary, use the main army with the tech units to pull everything in, keep your specialists together, and then just kick the zealots as hard as you can down the side lane. See if you can find something over there to shut down one of the bases, focus some SCVs. But they are there as like an attention sink, right? Because we know, again, they're not going to do very much against this 3-3 bio head-to-head. That's what he needs everything else for. So the Zealots buy time, they distract, they're annoying. You know, it's one of those moments where I also think, there's no turrets in the main either. It's one of those situations where if a Prism can sneak in somewhere, it would also potentially be devastating. He's going to try and come down this ramp with quite a bit of his Immortals, throws a few disruptor shots out. Stalkers are on the right side, and he's just zoning that choke point through the line of sight blocker, and all these units can't really be replaced. So GG is called herO with the 2-0, and that's, I'm not gonna